Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CSL March Madness Qualifier number 1, round of 8 between Northern Arizona and Maryland College Park. Starting down here at the bottom right side of Akalon Wastes, representing his very own Northern Arizona. It is the Terran player in the green trunks. It is Deadleaf. You are Deadleaf. I don't know what that exactly means. We'll have to discuss that. But his opponent at the top left side of the map in the red trunks in the Terps colors of Maryland College Park. It is the Zerg player RKB. So another TVZ. With me is the wonderful Mr. John Williams. Shiro, how are you doing? Are you excited for another TVZ,
Protoss
man?
right now. I'm really... Because I play Protoss. This would help a lot more if we were casting Protoss games, but whatever.
Well, remember that point we were like towards the end of the season from last season,
like
every
ZVZ,
single,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like every ZVZ or like PVC, like every single game. I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, where the hell are all the Terrans, man? Like this is
Best
getting
of sevens
sad.
with just CVZ. That was amazing.
That was awful. It's okay. Hopefully it'll even out. You know, I think once we get a couple months in, some of the Zergs figure out some build orders, some good timing pushes and builds and stuff like that, we might see more variety. And again, I think it's just kind of one of those things that happened where we didn't get one of those Protoss heavy schools in this qualifiers, because there's definitely a few of them. I mean, you got to remember, I mean, there's that one time, I don't know if you were there with me, was it you or Jared, where I think we just basically casted PvPs all day long. I'm like, good god.
Give me a PvP at the moment. But I'll be honest, I'm curious. Are they going to do the exact same thing? Are they going to go for the Reapers, the spawning pool, and a little bit of pressure being dealt with, you know, a bunker being thrown in there? Or is he going to play it safer? We're seeing the exact same scout we saw last game. If that's anything to go by, not a good sign given the fact Terran prevailed.
Well, it's kind of interesting to watch like how every single player is deciding to basically go with Reapers.
You got a Marine first!
Yeah, I know, right? Woo! Zergs all over the world are cheering. They're so happy that Terran's just going to expand normally. But again, that's just kind of part of the meta. Something I'm actually surprised to see is nobody went like 8 racks Reaper, nothing very aggressive, something very, very cheesy, because if you go that intensively aggressive, you could actually do a lot of damage to Zergs. Sometimes it's just way too hard to hold off, and the amount of damage that gets done, not only are you able to pick off a hatch, you're able to pick off a lot of drones, a lot of wings, a queen. I mean, there's just so many different variances that you could do with early Reaper pressure such as that. But overall, I think looking at it with the double gas getting taken by Deadleaf, this is just going to be something very standard, straight out of Wings of Liberty style play.
Definitely. I mean, I would have loved to have seen him just kind of counter the command center and go for a 3 racks or just like something along those lines. But not going to be the case. Has not yet gone for gas there, RKB. That being said, since he did go for the hatchery, will be a little bit delayed as opposed to the hatch than spawning full gas. You actually do manage. I think you get speed slightly faster if you do it that way.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Now, I want to go into a little bit about our Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. For some of you guys that don't know about them, located in Flagstaff, Arizona, 18K undergrad, 5K postgrad students, so about 23K nerd ballers that you could choose from. If you don't know their mascot, they're basically known as the Lumberjacks. Big Division 1 school in itself, not the biggest, but still Division 1 overall. Last season they had a wonderful run. They actually got into the playoffs very, very deep. They went 4-0 over Virginia, 4-0 over Cal Poly Pomona, 4-1 over Emory, 4-1 over University de Sherbrooke, and then eventually got their hopes and dreams crushed by one of the grand finalists, 1-4 by Washington. So that's not too bad, man. If you lose to one of the grand finalists...
Lumberjacks, I started thinking of the Lumberjack song now, and I can't get it out of my head.
Okay, come on. Focus, Shiro. Focus. We got
So hard.
We got StarCraft action. Come on, man. Overall, they got a big roster. I know from last season, at least from the CSL website, they had 11 official players noted on the roster, again led by Coldflame, Methling, ABSX Legend, which we might see later, John, our Zerg that we saw earlier, and as well Deadleaf at the moment. But they had an article... Double Hellion. We had an article written on them about somewhere in October 2012 where they actually had looked about 21 total players, 9 in their quote-unquote Division 1 and 12 in their quote-unquote Division 2. So lots of a big roster, man. That's a big roster. 21 StarCraft players.
The third CC is now coming out. Zerg already on 3 base as well. We saw this last game, Zerg getting the fast 3 base. Still wasn't enough to secure it in the end. Just too much pressure, too much harass, but that was with Widow Mines, and obviously Hellions don't necessarily offer the same kind of attack patterns and the same kind of potential, so maybe we will be seeing less harass in the early stages just until he can amass a large enough number of Hellbats. He is currently supply block though. 2 supply depots currently coming through, while one and Stim on the way. A really late Ling speed actually.
Yeah, it is fairly late. Does he have a Roach Warren anywhere? Yeah, he does, okay.
Yeah.
So that sort of makes sense. I think he invested in more to get the Roach Warren and also get his third base. Again, it's not too prevalent to get speed. If you're going to go for Roach Warren, he does have one of the Evo Chambers sort of kind of walling it off. He's got a Queen in position as well. So the aliens aren't going to exactly have the easiest time maneuvering around in those areas. And again, there's still no saturation over at the third, so nothing he can technically kill off inside to a Queen. Overall, just RKB playing this very, very patiently. I mean, Roach Warren finishing up. He's getting his lair, getting some of the first roaches out, starting his first missile attack. So, sort of just kind of covering all of his bases, and that's really nice to see out of a Zerg when he's just playing. And you gotta play cautious until we figure out this game a little bit more. The threat of the Terran is just too high right now to be playing very loosely and aggressive. Again, we don't see any like Zergs right now take 5-minute hatches anymore. That's something I've really noticed a lot more now. I'm like, no Zergs are taking their hatches at like 5:30 anymore that I've seen. Everybody's kind of being a little cautious, waiting to get their roaches out, taking a little bit of later hatch, maybe wait to get their spire out, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would necessarily be going Spire this game, it seems. Even though he did... Yeah, he's going Hydrolus. So. It's just because he obviously went for the missile attack. Usually you'd want to be banking a lot more gas, just so as soon as that Spire hits, you have about 10-15 meters out on the field, which you can use to harass straight away. Not going to be the case this time. Third CC. This is actually a really nice place to be able to defend for Terran for the most part for your fourth position. Sorry, for your third position, just because of the way you can set up siege tanks on the high ground and the like. It makes it very difficult for those the swarm units to actually make it inside.
Yeah, looking at Indeed, and as we watch some of the creepers getting cleared off, oh, one of the Widow Mines tees off, and these Lings are going to continue chasing on forward. He does have the Overseer over there, but unfortunately, some of those Lings do get picked off. 2 roaches are in place as well as a Queen, and he should have more than enough to not only take out the Hellion, but the Widow Mines that are in place. Good control by RKB. Again, back to the whole patience thing, playing very patiently. Now he's very saturated between the 3 bases. He could even, now at this point, consider breaking down the rocks and taking his third base as well. I mean, his fourth base as well.
He's getting the Hydrolus speed, so maybe looking for a Hydrolus Roach push. Roach push, man, a little bit of an older, very early wall strategy.
Yeah, I mean...
Hydra Roach.
Well, you know, Hydra Roach, it's one of those, at least for myself, I've seen it, it's definitely grown in popularity. The speed of the Hydras have definitely been a big improvement for, I mean, a lot of the Zergs. They've enjoyed those. They, especially in the ZVP area, they've enjoyed them a lot. CVZ, they are just as useful. In ZVT, it's a little iffy how you want to utilize them. Against Stefano's sort of popular towards the end of Wings of Liberty, the Roach Hydras-esque style, but I've seen it work a little bit better against mech versus than anything else, or Sky Terran, I guess, if you want to call it that. Just against the Bio Army, I'm too afraid that with Widow Mines and Marine Marauder and tanks, that's just way too much DPS for them to be able to engage against that sometimes.
My biggest fear at the moment for RKP is the fact that he's not really going to have too much to deal with drops. We're seeing, you know, quite a few medevacs now coming out. Definitely going to be seeing a drop very shortly. How's he going to respond to that? It's going to be putting a lot of pressure on his vision. And he doesn't exactly have a massive amount. He hasn't got the Zelnaga Watchtower, which he probably should pick up very shortly, to at least get that little bit of extra vision. Does have a few Hydras, but even Hydras on creep is going to take them a long time to get around to deal with those elevated drops.
Indeed. Hold on just a sec. Well, I'm having a panic moment. Was that raid call? Okay, that was raid call. Somebody was trolling me in raid call, man. Somebody was trolling me in raid call. I heard rock and roll music, man. It just kind of popped out of nowhere. I went into like emergency mode. So, I like started checking Twitch. I'm like, is a commercial on or something? I'm just like scrambling around. Apologies for that. You know, yeah, having another one of those schizophrenic moments, man.
That could be a lot. But yes, Siege Tank's going to be... Oh, a Nidus! A Nidus Worm. Now that is perfect. That's exactly what he needs to defend his bases and keep that going. I mean, Nidus necessarily don't have a massive amount of health, but it's still going to allow that mobility that his army really needs. And with this massive creep spread, Nidus network inbound, I love that alert that comes up So beautiful.
Yeah, that's actually really, really nice. Makes us look smart. We're like, oh hey, look at Nidus now respawn.
Oh, Nidus is coming up. Did you see the Nidus? Of
Oh yeah, no, of course I saw the Nidus.
Oh, it's gonna go straight behind the defenses. He has just scanned it as these roaches are kind of waddling out. They're not really the fastest units. Hydra's going to the front line. Not gonna be happy about that one. As they all kind of go back into the Nidus. Like, maybe this wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, and unfortunately some of the roaches are going to be trapped at the moment. RKB is trying to focus down one of the eBays, which will delay upgrades. Which only takes it down surprisingly. No help with the no help with the actual repair on that point. But not too bad. Good little harass. Took out a little bit of the economy. Took out an eBay. I think it had potential to do more damage than it actually did. But still, regardless, good idea, good strategy. It still keeps Deadleaf on his side of the map, and that's really what a Zerg wants. They want to turn just to sit back as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a scary position for both players because necessarily you can't really engage. It's very difficult to engage a Terran player with just the amount of stuff they have. They can turtle so well, so hard. You really want to be fighting them out in the middle of the map as opposed to inside their base. When at the same time, the Zerg can't really be left to go and get every single base he wants and have an unlimited economy. Burrowed Bailings does get the scan off, so he does snipe both of them. Very nicely done.
And
but the rocks, if he takes out the rocks, it actually should kill the Marines, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but again, the investment of that, like what, like
how many units is he gonna lose?
I know how many units he's gonna lose to try to knock down the rock. He's just like, yes, I lost all my units, but at least I crushed a pack of Marines with a rock falling right over.
If he was Protoss and had a Tempest, we wouldn't have this problem.
I know, right? I know. Back to Protoss. This is actually so nice. Oh,
take him out.
And he does actually, he burrows a lot of the roaches on the front side as well, saves them, and no units saved up by Deadleaf. This is actually such beautiful control by RKB, man. Saving so many of his units, doing a wonderful job with a good flank as well. Typically in those type of situations, you would probably think that the Zerg player might be a little bit in over his head with the Roach Hydras, but, you know, in that regards, did a pretty good job. Now at this point, if he continues on forward, that will definitely be an overextension. There we go, definitely 3 tanks already sieged up, and a huge Marine pack at the front as well.
Exactly, that Terran walling is just so strong, turtling effective. But that being said, he's not too worried. He has now gone for his 5th base and has got Infestors out of the way. So maybe we'll see my favourite Swarm hosts make their appearance, make a debut in the CSL.
How do you feel about the Swarm host? I
think it's insanely too strong.
Really?
I think it's a really good unit. I mean, the only thing you kind of have to worry about is obviously siege tanks. But when my biggest threat I find is when you leave a Zerg alone for too long and then they just rock up on your doorstep with a ridiculous number of swarm hosts. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, again, I think it's like up to experimenting and stuff like that against bio play. I think swarm hosts are actually very weak as it gets focused down. Beautiful cancel actually right at the very last second. I think a swarm host against bio are weak. Against mech they might have some sort of opportunity because of just the onslaught of continuous units heading on forward. I think it's an interesting unit. I think it's very interesting. It has a lot of harass capabilities in ZVZ. In ZVP,
Third base, fourth base drop.
Oh, he's got them all over the place. He's got them at the 5th and the 4th as well. But the one at the 5th gets cleaned up. There's the one over here at the 4th. Indeed, it does as well. But yeah, it's just weird. The Swarm Host is a very interesting unit. I think, you know, Leenox showed us some capabilities over this past weekend, what it can do. I think once it gets a little bit more figured out, maybe gets a little bit more of a buff of some sort. I don't know what it could be to help itself out, because at this point I still think the unit's just a little bit too weak in general, where, you know, if you're in position, if you lose your army right away, or, you know, you get a bad positioning, Terran just scans once and basically takes out every single swarm host that you do have. So it's not that hard to take them out.
From a Protoss perspective, that's probably why. But Protoss, I find...
No, what do you find, like, the problem with them in CVP? I mean, in PvZ?
You have to have like a lot of Colossus. Oh, Zerg's just gonna go straight for the base. Like, you have to have something that does a lot of AoE, or at least can mitigate their effects fairly quickly, and it's very difficult to necessarily get close enough to them with the rate at which they're able to spawn if you've got the upgrade for it. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
No, it does. I just try to think, like, in general with the meta game, like with the Colossus, yes. I guess just the fact that you lose too many units trying to soak them up with like zealots and stuff like that. So yeah, I see your point. Now, Zerg trying to swarm over here at the front, but this time not a flank, just going heads forward with the infestors, and we get to see some of the new fungals getting thrown down, and not doing too bad of a job taking some of the units out, but not an efficient, cost-efficient trade. Deadleaf still sitting at 191. He's got another army on the backside heading across the map. The third hatch, is getting focused down. That fifth hatch got canceled eventually, and as well now the macro hatch vulnerable. And I just think this is kind of bad right now for RKB. The Terran is starting to slow push him, man. He's starting to become the plastic bottle Terran, man. Spooning him to death.
I think this is kind of the situation in which Vipers are really appealing. But that being said, he has got 9 Ultralists on the way. You know, just casually.
Just casually.
These drops will be very difficult to deal with. Hopefully the Fungal, yep, if he lands the Fungals consistently, he should be okay. Needs to try and clean up as many of those Medivacs as possible. He's got a little bit of a dangerous position. The Ultralist forced back. Needs to go for it. Oh, Vipers are out. I got to see a Viper. My day is made. Bile going down, and the Bile is the perfect way to deal with this Terran slow push.
I want to see a Yank happen, man. That's probably my most favorite new ability. I'm like, is the Viper Yank, man. I love it. So hilarious just watching units get ripped across the map by certain stuff. And look at this, man. I think RKB actually has. Oh wow, why did he stop? He actually had an opportunity to break out of that. He still had enough Hydras. But
yeah, I think his Ultralist was stuck behind the Hydras, which wasn't really doing him any favors. But that Bile being consistently thrown down on the siege tanks is just being amazing.
Yeah, I just think right now with the complete supply deficit of 107 and 165, I think Deadleaf has an overall advantage. He's got the rest of the reinforcing units heading across the map. He's already lost his third hatch, he's lost a fifth. He's trying to take the one over here at the top right, but again, it's kind of a little bit to no avail. There's not a lot that he could honestly do, and look at this with the medevac, zoom, flying across the map, losing one of the medevacs with full units. Just basically trying to get the full attention of his opponent. Some Lings and Ultras and Hydras and Roaches are out, but I don't think this is going to be enough to break through. The Ultralist goes down, there's Infestor, but no energy either. Viper just gets focused down right away, and GG coming from RKB. Game number 2 in the books, but switching to the other side, it is going to go to Northern Arizona, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of... Even if he beat that army, there was still another massive Terran force back at the main. Terran had gotten, I think, another 2 CCs down as well to look at double expanding off the back of that, so it would have been an insanely comfortable position. Would have had such great mining, and especially when you take into account that the Zerg was basically on one base, which was almost mined out. Not the place you want to be.
Indeed. Well, guys, we're going to be heading off to game number 3 in just a moment. Remember to come join us in Raid Call. I had to hop out, but I'm going to hop back in just a second. Once we get 50 people, we're going to hand out another piece of our CSL swag, so be sure to get in on that. We are group 1111, that's our ID. Chill in the lounge, hang out with us. Also, as well, big shout outs to our other sponsors, NCIX. Check them out at ncix.com. Big electronics store, if you want to call it that. And then as well to our scholarship sponsor, Azubu, from last season, where they're giving out $4,000 in scholarships, 4 of them total, if I'm not mistaken. So $16,000 in scholarships, man. That's pretty awesome for esports, college support. Gotta love it. But regardless, we'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. I'm Cheesehead Logic. With me is Shiro and our observer, Imagine42, otherwise known as Daniel T. Well, don't go anywhere.